Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Soccer Coaching Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Scott.
And I'm the other host, Mark.
In each episode, Mark and I will discuss the key topics that impact on football coaching in the foundation and youth development phases. We will share our thoughts, ideas and experiences, and whenever possible include guests so we can get their insights and opinions too. Thanks for listening and we hope you enjoy this episode. Hey Mark, how you doing?
Yeah, pretty good, Scott. How's things?
Yeah, not too bad at all. Not too bad at all. All things considered, it's okay.
It could be worse, right? The weather's nice, and you've got a back garden. I've got a back garden, so there is a little bit of football action, and I'm trying to do a little bit of coaching as well, just to keep my hand in there until things return to normal. So
coaching the boys.
So it could be worse. Coaching the boys, yeah. Coaching my two sons, yeah.
Oh, their lock-in's going to feel even worse. Bless them.
I'm trying not to shout at them or anything.
No, to be fair, I've seen some of the videos you posted up, so it's all very encouraging. Even Marcus said, Mark does praise a lot, doesn't he? So it's better than shouting.
Exactly, you've got to be positive.
I think that was just a little
positive.
subliminal message to me.
Although I must say the neighbours are not being very positive. The amount of times the football's going over the fence and hitting the fence. Our next door neighbour's got put a brand new fence in about 6 months ago.
Not good timing.
And I think I've seen in your garden there's one panel that's missing.
Well, actually, because of the storms we had a couple of months back, we lost 2 on one side and 3 on the other side. Right. But we've got lovely neighbours. So it is actually, I know it sounds weird, but it's quite nice because it's open. I think they think the same. We can kind of see each other now and have a little chat and stuff. So given the fact everyone's kind of locked in their gardens and at home and stuff at the moment, it's actually quite nice having a bit of extra social contact from just the family. And they've given permission for the boys to go and get the balls as well. So I think it's okay. We're lucky.
Perfect.
Lucky we're nice neighbours.
That'll change, mate. Give it.
Yeah, I'm sure it will change. It will change, but hopefully we can make it last another week or two before they start making their own fences and putting them up. So
indeed, yeah. So just before we kind of get into it, I've obviously I think probably the audience, the listeners are aware. My son plays in your team, my youngest son, and I think it's probably worth sharing on the podcast, Scott, some of the stuff you're doing with the group actually, because there's been some really good things in terms of challenges you've been setting, and just the engagement levels have been impressive, right? The amount of videos that are coming through from the boys doing different things is just it's almost a bit overwhelming.
I think that's what some of the parents do think, but yeah, okay. Well, obviously we didn't plan for this situation, as coaches. We never planned to not see our teams for a number of weeks, and we don't actually know how long that's going to be. And we all work really hard, not just trying to develop the players that we've got technically and physically, but also building up that social and psychological stuff that we do around the sessions that we've got. And I think my biggest worry, or not my biggest worry, but my biggest concern to some extent was having a prolonged period where not getting the players together, was losing that more than the ability of the players to play football. They're not going to go backwards. They might get a bit. We've seen summer holidays, you can have 6 weeks off and the kids may or may not play. Some will play low, some will play not at all over 6 weeks. But when you're back after the summer break, it takes a week or two and then everyone's back up and firing again. Actually, for some, the break's quite good for them in that sense. But what we were in danger of losing, I think, over this period was some of that connection with the team itself. I mean, they're only under 8s moving to under 9, so let's not carried away with it. But there's still 9 players there that are used to spending 4 hours a weekish together in our coaching time, plus obviously the school time and stuff, because most of the kids are from one school and they still see each other outside of school as well. So I guess it was that. So the idea was that we kind of thought about, okay, how can we maintain some interaction between the players and keep a little bit of focus there? Bear in mind everyone's practicing social distancing and pretty much based from home. So yeah, that was kind of what we were thinking about maybe 3 weeks ago now, how to do that.
Yeah.
And along with the other 2 coaches who coach with the other teams, so we kind of thought, well, let's set a weekly challenge and we'll do a creative challenge and a physical challenge. So one that relates to football and one that relates to something else, maybe football related, but isn't about kicking the ball in the garden, could be something different. So that's what we did. So I think week 1, I'm trying to remember now, I think week 1 challenges were spell your name kick-ups. So you had to spell your name. We did 4 levels. So level 1 was spelling your first name with a bounce between each letter. Level 2 was spelling your first and second name with a bounce between each letter. Level 3 was doing your first name with no bounce. And level 4 was doing both names with no bounce, then seeing how far you can go on from that. And I'll come back to that in a second, but that was the physical challenge for week 1. And the creative challenge for week 1 was design your own kit. So if we were to get a new team kit for our little team, what would that look like? So you can design the badge and everything else with that. So, they had that to work on for a week. And then the idea being that
there were some good designs, by the way.
Brilliant designs.
There were some fantastic designs, really good designs.
Well, this is the other side to what came out of this. And I'm not going to pretend that this was all kind of with foresight. It was very much in hindsight, but the players embraced the challenges, which were brilliant, obviously with help from the mums and dads, which I really appreciate, and obviously a bit nudging on here and there, but the quality in what the players produced was excellent. And you've got, for example, with the kits one, it wasn't just the kits they designed, and they were really good, but they presented them in little videos. So you've got the players now presenting the videos about the kits they've chosen and why. So the other players can look at those kits and the boys presenting. So they're looking to see how other boys present and the videos that they use and their style and stuff. So there's other stuff going on here that's not just football. It's about presentation skills, communication, leadership. It's about creativity. It's about being inventive and all these things that will transfer back onto a football pitch, but also just do you well in life. And you can see the players. And actually every week it's kind of, I think that everyone's improved a little bit more on those. They've kind of edged each other on with increasing the bars got higher each time. So they did that. But what they did, that they
I think, Scott, this comes back, just a quick, this comes back to the kind of the point that we've spoken about a lot in terms of putting the player kind of first, right? And not just helping them from a football standpoint, but help them actually in life. It's all these things, and I think what the challenge is doing really help, because you see some of the videos, and actually some of the boys are like super confident in front of the camera. And you can see they enjoy it, but there's one or two probably less so. But actually, they're still doing it. And then as the videos have gone on over the weeks, you can see that kind of becoming a bit more confident and enjoying it a little bit more, right?
That's exactly it. That's what we were going to risk losing by not doing this stuff. So one of the benefits of having a team is you play off each other's strengths, don't you? Not every player is as good at everything as everybody else. Some are good at certain things and others are good at other things. So, like you say, the presentation skills, some boys are happy on the video in their face and just camera in the face and have it recorded and stuff and don't get intimidated. So other boys are a little bit shy around that, which is fine. But when they watch their mates do it, that gives them the confidence to go and give it a go themselves. A little bit of pressure because they've kind of got to do it to something. They haven't got to do it, but they feel like they've got to do it. But we're all very positive about it. But this is what it's all about: being challenged and trying to enhance your skills and that broader stuff. But it's not like it's just about life skills. I genuinely believe that actually, if you're better at presenting, if you improve your ability to present yourself in the camera, well, there's confidence in there. There's communication skills in there, there's leadership skills in there. All these things will transfer back into a football context, in the weeks to come. So we're not losing out on that stuff. The boys could just go in the garden and practice individual ball skills or play with their brothers and sisters and mums and dads. That's absolutely fine too. But that won't do the psychological and social stuff necessarily that we might have done otherwise by the things we do in our team dynamic. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't get the boys doing presentations on a Saturday at training sessions, but I do encourage leadership. We do encourage one boy to run a session, do a skill test. There's other ways in which we go about that, but that's taken away from us at this moment in time because of the situation. So we've got to find other ways in which we can develop some of these things. And the idea of doing the creative activity, not just the physical one, was to work on some of that stuff as well as giving the players a bit of a break from just being in the garden and playing football. If the weather was to be particularly bad, although it hasn't been, but if it was bad, then at least they can do something else that's not necessarily requires them being out in the garden. So, but what I like about the way we set it up is we set the challenges on a Saturday. So I make a video, and that's conscious as well. So I deliberately put myself on a screen talking to the players, not the parents, to the players, because again, I want them to see me. It's not about me, but I introduce the tasks and challenges and then hand it over to the players. Then the players spend the week practicing, putting it together. Then they share their videos.
For a podcast, to be honest, rather than a video.
Yeah, is that true? Yeah, they've got to look at my ugly mug, but I've got to do that at the weekends as well anyway, so they're used to that. But then they upload their videos before they go to bed on a Thursday evening, and then on a Friday, they all look at each other's videos for the physical and the creative task, and they choose their favourite two. and then they text one of the mums who's our administrator. She's really helpful and gets to see the results of all the votes, and then the mum tells me who the top two are for each of the weeks. And we kind of play a little bit around it to make sure that everyone's get some recognition, so we'll make it work. But ultimately, if you've won it, and you'll get the point for that. And what we do, we got a little board that we use, a whiteboard that I share on the video on the Saturday, with all the boys listed and the challenges across, and they get a tick for each for having a go. So if they've had a go at the activity, they get a tick, but then also the top two for each one get an extra tick each week, which I think works quite well. And the one thing that's carried over from week one that I like is we've kept the kick up competition going on. So what we've said is you get an extra tick each week by the player that improves on their previous personal best the most. So if you had done 10 kick-ups last week, Mark, and you did 20 this week, you've improved by 10. If I'd done 30 last week and got to 37 this week, I've improved by 7. So you've improved the most. So you'll get the extra tick this week. So again, it's just about keeping that thing on. And it's amazing to watch a kick-up video to see how the boys have improved on their kick-ups. I mean, it's amazing to see how much they've improved. Now, I'm not saying kick-ups makes you a great football player. I know it's not the case, but actually, it's something to do in the garden. It's about resilience. It's about persistence. It's about sticking at something. It's about practice. So there's other things there that are transferable. It's not just about the ability to kick a ball up and down using parts of your body. There's other things. If you're trying to get to that next milestone, you might have set yourself. If you're at 10 mark and you want to get to 15, well, getting that next 5 can be quite challenging, but it's very rewarding when you get there. And watching the boys' videos of what they've done has been excellent.
I think there's a couple of things there, right? I think it's actually controlling emotions as well, because I know I've seen it from both my sons. My eldest son has been involved as well. But for both of them, you can see that actually they get to boiling point where they can't beat their record, or if they start off badly, then generally they actually, for probably the next 10 minutes of doing it, they don't seem to do very well. But if they start well, then they carry on doing well, and it's quite funny how it works actually. So I think it's controlling emotions and resilience is brilliant for that. And I think it's great that little kind of bit of competition is great. I like that competitive edge amongst the players, and I know there's one or two boys that are exceptionally good at it, and others are less so, but everyone has different strengths. But it's great to see the boys striving to improve and actually seeing that improvement week on week.
Definitely. And it is funny how you can see some correlation between what you see on Saturday training sessions, practical training sessions, to what I've seen in the videos that have been uploaded each week from the players as well. And that's not saying one's better and one's not so good, but you can just see, some of them wants the challenge and really embrace it. Others do it because actually they know that they're compliant and they want to do it. Others engage in certain challenges because they love that challenge, but maybe not so much in others, which is absolutely fine. They're kids, and that's absolutely fine. But it's funny how I think what's given me confidence this is working in the way we want it to work is that very fact that we're seeing those, that crossover between what we would see on a Saturday and what we're seeing in the activities they're doing in the weekly challenges, which means, maybe it is doing what it's supposed to do, given we can't do what we really want to be doing. Should I explain the other? So I can't remember. So week one was the kick up challenges and the design your own kit. Week 2 was create your own skill and the creative challenge.
So create your own skill was the physical challenge.
Yes. And the creative challenge from last week was, I've got it here. Hold on. I should remember it, shouldn't I? But I can't remember.
Should remember, I should remember.
7-a-side dream team. You had to create your own 7-a-side dream team, and include yourself as one of the players.
That's right, and that fits in quite nicely with what we're going to talk about as well.
It does, yeah. We will get on to that in a second. I promise I'll shut up. But just, I love the fact we put yourself in that team, because it blew me away. So first the boys had to choose their own formation, then select the players they wanted to play in that formation. So past or present, like, whatever players they wanted to. So, you got your Van Dijks and you got your Messis and stuff like that, which you'd expect to see, but it was still good to see. Yeah. But then they all had to play themselves in one of the positions. And I don't think I would have guessed probably almost any of the positions the players put themselves in. There was a lot of centre mids. We had a goalkeeper. We had a left mid. Right. So but no one put themselves up front, which was interesting. And everyone played themselves in the positions.
Do you think there was a lot of centre? I agree. Do you think there's a lot of centre mids because it's a new position that we don't have in five-a-side, or we don't use in five-a-side? Do you think that was why it was the big attraction?
I think so, but then we don't use a striker either, do we, in five-a-side? you can have 2 front players, 2 back players. So it depends how
fair point. Yeah.
So really the centre mid and the front player
Yeah.
or the striker, if you like, in 7-a-side, we've never really had in our 5-a-side format the way we've set it up. You think they would suit both unique positions? That they could have picked either, and I just think they want to be on the ball, and they see centre mid as the best place to be on the ball, and I love that. I think I'm okay with that. They don't just want to score the goals. They don't just want to stay at the back because that's where they feel safest. They don't just want to go in goal. And to be fair, the boy that put himself in goal, absolutely fine, But I know I'm not surprised he put himself in goal, but actually he does a cracking job on the wing for us left bit. I don't know, he could have put himself anywhere. I wouldn't have thought out of all the places he could have chosen, he would have chosen that position. But it's a great eye opener for me to see that. And then this week's challenges were, we did goalkeeping practice. They had to create their own goalkeeping practice and demonstrate that. And they had to design their own goalkeeper kit and gloves. So again, and I've seen the videos because most of the boys have been this week as well. And again, I'm blown away by it, Mark. Honestly, I just think just shows you what a great little team these boys are because of the effort they put into this kind of stuff.
Well, I totally agree. But I think secondly, Scott, I think there's 2 things I would say. One is I think the challenges have been great. But secondly, I think the parents have stepped up as well, right? Because they're doing the videoing, they're doing the video editing. Some of the video editing's like out of this world. I know, like some of the video editing you've done, for example, is brilliant. But all the other guys, some of the ideas that the parents must have had some input, right? And they're doing the edit. It's really, really good. And I think it can have editing skills.
Yeah, I'm losing a bit there, Mark, but I can see you laughing and editing skills. So I think I know what you were getting at.
Yeah, exactly. I need to live up to what you're doing, Scott, and some of the other parents. But
just got more time than most. That's the problem, I think. But that's part of it too, right? I mean, and to be fair, a shout out to the brothers and sisters that have been involved as well, because I've seen some brothers and sisters involved in these videos. There's been some funny clips and stuff, so it's just keep the interaction going. So even though the boys aren't together, and yes, they could just log on Zoom and look at each other's faces and stuff, but this is a bit more constructive than that. They can do that stuff anyway. So I just think, you know what, we're trying to fill a void for the moment, and so far I think after 3 weeks it's worked pretty well. I'm pleased with it, actually. I think the plan next week is we'll do something but a little bit more relaxed because it's second week of these holidays, so something that requires less maybe parent involvement if they don't want to be overly involved, and a bit more kind of just a bit easier, I think, is my thinking for 1 more week, because the 3 weeks have been pretty intense and pretty fantastic, and then see what obviously the plan is from what the government's message is moving forward. But maybe we'll have another run of 3 or 4 weeks of this, and then hopefully, you never know, we might be back outside, and the hope is by that stage we can maybe put something better on outside, but let's wait and see.
Yeah, it might be worth, Scott, and I don't know whether you need to get the parents' approval, but maybe 1 or 2 of those videos, even if it's just our sons, maybe posting them on the Twitter account, just so people can see some of the challenges you've been doing and some of what the videos are.
Okay, I'll ask. I mean, it's funny about that because I don't have an issue posting them on my own Twitter account for some reason, but I try and avoid the podcast one that we use, but maybe I don't need to do that. So you can certainly find some of the stuff on my own one anyway. But maybe if I think it's okay, if I check the parents, maybe they don't mind us putting on the podcast one, I can do that too. But they are good, aren't they? It's really impressive what the boys do. Pretty much independently. You're right about parents help with the video and stuff like that, but I think what they produce themselves with the guys, I mean, some of those create your own skills were phenomenal. Like, really were brilliant.
Oh, they were.
Because I thought that was going to be a stretch too far for them, but they were excellent. Anyway.
Yeah, they were very good. I think we should move on to the topic that we were originally going to spend most of the time talking about, which is 7-a-side format for football.
Yeah, this is you really now, mate. I'm at your mercy on this one, so I'm hoping to learn loads.
Taking a back seat. So
your insightfulness.
So I think it's worth saying then at the front. So you're the under 9s in the UK. The format changes from 5-a-side to 7-a-side. So the team that you coach at the moment is under 8s. Is at 5-a-side. It's just coming to the end of 5-a-side, or in fact it is now at the end of 5-a-side, given what's happened
prematurely. And
then next season you can move to 7-a-side with that team. I've been through 7-a-side for I've done 2 seasons with which were my under 9s and under 10s at the time, so I've got some kind of experience of that format. The podcast a while back, it could have been number 16, I think, which was the 5-a-side focus. So this is kind of building on that and just talking a bit more about 7-a-side and differences and things like that, right?
Yep, perfect. Yeah, well, it's the right time for us. I mean, we'd obviously started looking at this maybe a few weeks back, not knowing we were going to have to stop early. But the boys have had, I think, 3 or 4 games of 7 aside. So I dipped my toe in a little bit and seen, had a little look at it. But yeah, I'm interested to get your thoughts, Mark, on some of the thoughts around actually adding to the team. That's one thing that coaches have to consider. Okay, because obviously we've gone from a squad. I guess most 5-a-side squads are around, something between 7 and 10 players, depending on how many players you've got. But obviously 7-a-side, you might want to be increasing those numbers. So what's your thoughts around that? Would be my first thing.
Yeah.
And then my second thing is, what's your thoughts around formation? How important is it? What formations would you be looking at? And I guess how are they impacted by the players that you've got would be my initial thoughts in my head, mate, if that's okay to share your views on those. Yeah. So what about recruitment
then?
I
think maybe we can have a. Yeah. So for me, I'm just trying to recall when at the end of under 8s, moving to under 9s, I think I had pretty much a full squad. I think I may have had almost 10 players at the time. So I think I didn't really have any issues in terms of recruitment because I had a full squad. We did have some player movement. Because I was running or coaching the B team at the time. We did have a player that moved from the B team to the C team, so that's moving. We had a player move down, and then we had a player move up from the C team to the B team. So we had some player movement that we had to deal with, and those kind of things are never easy. It's obviously a lot more challenging when you're moving a player down rather than a player up. You've got to kind of deal with that. But I think it was a fairly smooth transition. We were relatively close in terms of the B and the C team at the time, so it was quite a smooth transition. And certainly the player that moved from the C team to the B team had earned that right to kind of move up, and it had really developed over the previous season, and actually come into the B team and really hit the ground running, and in fact was superb in that first season for us.
So Mark, then just a question for you.
Yeah.
I know that anyone listening to the podcast and knows you will know the answer to whether or not you think it's better to look to move players up internally than look outside. We know you'd say internally 100% if they're ready for it. But what kind of things should a coach be looking at? If you're looking to add to your squad, whether that be internally or externally, what are the considerations when you're moving from 5 to 7 aside?
I think for me, I'm not sure that it would. I think I would probably put that to one side and just say, right, if I need to recruit players, or if there needs to be transition within the age group between the teams, I think for me, firstly, players need to be playing at the right level for them to develop. They need to be playing at the right level, whether that means they need to be challenged more, or whether that means they need to be playing at a different level so it gives them more time on the ball. They're able to play different positions and have some success in different positions, build their confidence, and then maybe develop at a quicker rate. I think that's critical for me. So I think regardless of the individual, I think it's important, and this is where streaming comes in, that players are playing at the right level for them. And now I know there's a lot of arguments against streaming, and different clubs do different things, but our club does streaming. So firstly, for me, internal moves, I always try to encourage internal moves because I think that's the right way of doing it. I think it's rewarded for their hard work and their development. So I'd always encourage internal moves where possible.
And I'm going to guess, Mark, by that you mean ideally where possible moving up the team rather than down where you can. There's inevitably there might be some movement the other way if it has to happen, but really you're trying to encourage people to look at actually bringing players up through the system rather than pushing back players down through the teams.
Yeah, exactly. But again, if that has to happen, Scott, then I think it has to happen. It's not an easy, as I said, it's not an easy conversation, but
it's the best thing for the player. It's the best thing for the player.
Exactly, 100%. And it's all about the player, nothing else. There's no politics involved. It's just about what's the benefit for that young player. Where are they going to progress fast, develop at the right rate? But I do think, Scott, there is benefit from going external as well. And I think that if, for example, I had to bring in 3 players, I think I would definitely consider maybe bringing 1 player in externally if there is that option. I would always go internal first of all, and if I could take 2 players internally, I would do that, and then I would probably look a little bit externally as well.
Why, Mark? What does external bring
players
you?
From outside, there are benefits. I think it just brings a little bit of different. it just makes it a little bit less insular, if maybe that's not the right word, but I think it just gives you a little bit more edge to the team. I think it gives the new faces. They have to, existing players then have to integrate players they already know coming up. They have to then benefits there outside of football. There's benefits there. That player coming in could bring something as well, right? Something different than that you've got in the group of players, the existing group of players. So I definitely think there are benefits from external recruitment, but you obviously have to go through a process to make sure that person, the player coming in, is the right fit and will fit with the existing group. You have to make sure that the parent, right? Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. The parent is on the same page in terms of your philosophy or the team's philosophy. So, for example, if you had a boy or a girl join in that only played striker in their last game, and you rotate positions every game, so everyone plays different positions, then that parent needs to be bought into that philosophy. And it's not just they need to, even if they want to join and they just kind of acknowledge it, they need to properly buy into it. It's no good just acknowledging it, because that just will create problems down the line when their son's playing in goal for a quarter of the match, or is playing in as one of the back. There's benefits, and I've taken players from outside, from the kind of other teams, so it's worked very well both ways. And I think you've had some experience with your team. I think the team that you've got is very much one school based, right? But you have had one or two boys come externally, not that you've looked for them. Yeah. They've kind of asked to join, right?
Yeah, I see. Maybe I didn't appreciate the benefit of having an external player join the team until we did it ourselves, and you can see the benefit it's had for us, not just in the quality of the player that's been added, but just in the like you said, the different dynamic and giving the boys a new challenge. We've had the same squad pretty much for nearly 3 years, and we had one player, I guess, from outside of the main school that joined us at the very start, and then we had a player move up from the B to the A team. But obviously, all the boys know him, so it's been, the boys know each other really for the best part of 3 years. So bringing in somebody a bit new, outsiders, you can see there's loads of benefits to that. But like you say, our priority was always going to be to make sure that the boys currently within the squad of players, so all 3 teams in this age group, get the opportunity first if they've worked hard to get there, and if there was boys that were ready to move up to this team where they could be on, like you said, they could play in games, play in a few positions and impacting games and get on the ball enough, then they would get that opportunity to do that. And we looked at the players, and it's a shame we've run out of a bit of time potentially, but there's certainly one and possibly a second that might have got close to it. But I was confident in thinking, or comfortable thinking, actually, you know what, the other players in the B team, if you like, they're not quite ready for it yet at this moment in time. Now, if we had the bit after Easter, then who knows, that might have changed, and maybe we'll get the opportunity. But currently, right now, as the picture stands, I'm comfortable knowing that they'd be better off in the teams they're in, because they'll get more opportunity to do the right things in those teams than moving up a level just yet at this stage in their little journeys for that. So therefore, there was a space to look for somebody outside, and we managed that quite carefully, and it's had its benefits. So yeah. So Mark, before we move on then a little bit, just to follow up on those points, just 2 questions before we look at formations then, and your thoughts around what you think. How important is rotation still at 7-a-side, and does it change from 5-a-side for you? And how do you use goalkeepers? Because I know the goalkeeper situation for the team, we were part of that decision making around that thing, so it's a bit different. On reflection, be honest, what's your views on goalkeepers? I guess a 7-a-side, and on rotation 7-a-side, and be honest. I know I've preached loads at 5-a-side about full rotation, everything else, but does it change slightly at 7-a-side given the fact it's twice the size of the pitch, and maybe there's slightly more positions, maybe slightly more, I guess, role specific rather than just go and play like it is a bit of 5-a-side?
Yeah, so I think that it's probably worth saying that the goal size between 5-a-side and 7-a-side stays the same. So there's no change in the goal size. Obviously, the girls and boys playing have got a little bit bigger because it's a year difference. So what you kind of find actually is there's less goals at 7-a-side. The pitch is bigger as well, so there's less goals. And the other thing you find is that there'll be more teams with specialised goalkeepers, which makes it even harder to score goals because they're bigger in the goal and they're becoming specialised goalkeepers. So that makes it a little bit more challenging. We had a permanent goalkeeper. It was a boy that kind of enjoyed being in goal, and he kind of thrived in goal. Actually, he was really, really good. And actually, he did come out. He played out on pitch as well for us. We brought, but whenever we had the chance, we would bring him out, and I think he was kind of like something like our second top scorer one season when he played out on pitch. So yeah, so I think that my view is the right way is to keep going probably the way you've got it in terms of rotating goalkeepers. I think certainly for a season. I think probably as you move to 9-a-side, which happens when the boys kind of get to under 11s, I think a bit more position specific to time where to probably think a bit more about a goalkeeper. But I would certainly first year I would carry on rotating the players the way you've got it. You've all the boys kind of bought into that philosophy. They all go in goal. You can see from the goalkeeper training challenge that the right way to go.
Yeah. Okay. So
is that your thinking for next season?
Yeah, it definitely is. I totally agree. I think with the pitch being twice as big and the goals staying the same size and the players getting bigger, conceding goals isn't an issue. I don't see that, as in the sense it's not more of a worry than it would have been any other time. So I'm not overly concerned about that. And I still think the boys have got a lot to learn about all the positions. So they will just miss out by not having the chance to keep playing in goal. And if they could do it under 7s in 5-a-side goals that are huge when the kids are that age, they can do it at under 9s when the goals haven't changed and everything else. So I think they'll be fine with it. And also, I'll be honest with you, I kind of like my plan in my head is that we use the players as outfield players with gloves on, and therefore the shot stopping bit is a bonus. And actually, what I want is an extra football player on the pitch when we've got the ball, and all the boys give us that because they're all good with their feet. So I think what we lose by having that permanent goalkeeper that come out with wonderful saves that we see against teams we play against, some of the boys are still capable of doing that in their little moments, but that's not what they're really there for. I think we'll make up by having an extra player on the pitch. I honestly think we will. That's how I see it. It might not pan out, but I also do recognise at 9-a-side, I could see why you'd want to maybe start specialising on at least a keeper or two potentially within the squad, so you can kind of maybe slightly more position specific. Although I would hope maybe by that stage we could find 2 goalkeepers that are equally good with their feet and in goal, and then we could just share that responsibility between a couple of players and who could play on pitch and in goal. So Marky, then brilliant, mate. But let's talk about formations then.
Yes.
So tell me then, what was your thoughts around formations? What have you experienced, and kind of what would you recommend that? Well, let's be honest, what should I consider or not consider, or what should be my thought process when considering formations?
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of different formations out there, right? I've seen not just the teams we were playing against, different formations, but when I've spoken to kind of coaches when you're on coaching courses and things like that, there's a lot of there are a few different permutations, and this is where it kind of, I guess, from a coaching standpoint, it gets a bit more interesting because it does get a little bit more tactical. I think a 9-a-side is where it really gets interesting, but it does get a bit more tactical, and rightly or wrongly, there's arguments around that. But you do get to obviousobviously choose a formation, and there are a lot of more options. The formation that I always played actually was 1-2-3-1. So obviously 1 goalkeeper, 2 back players, 3 kind of midfield players, and 1 forward. And that it kind of felt that built on what we were doing at 5-a-side quite nicely, and the boys kind of, when we played a lot of friendlies to kind of get ready for the 7-a-side format the season before we went to 7-a-side and over the kind of summer, the boys kind of really seemed to thrive in that formation. That was the kind of best formation for us. So yeah, it worked quite well. And what I liked about it was that the 2 back players, so we had a left back and a right back, but they weren't, I guess, full backs. They were kind of just back defenders. What it meant is when we went forward, our starting formation was 1-2-3-1, but actually we kind of moved more to a kind of 1-1-3-2 type formation, or even 1-1-2-3 formation. So it kind of it changed obviously as depending whether you're attacking or defending. So we always allowed one of our defenders to go forward And to a certain extent, I think it's probably similar to what you do with the five-a-side, the 2-2 formation. It was really then that it was depending on what side the ball was, and for corners they made a decision who would go forward. So it just, rather than just having two back players that sit there, we started with two, and then one would progress forward to support the attack all the time, and we actively encouraged that. And to be honest, it probably cost us some goals, conceding goals, because there was quite a few times when we were left 1-on-1 or 2-on-1 at the back. But at the end of the day, I was okay with that, because I think it worked quite well. I think it was the right way to do things, in terms of not just having back players, but allowing them to make the decision when to go forward, and maybe decision when not to go forward. So so we would transition from having two defenders to one defender, and then from the midfield standpoint, we would have one kind of defensive midfielder who would be the centre midfielder. And actually, we had one boy that played a lot of his game time was in that position, and the boy well, and he had an engine which I don't think anyone that I've ever seen at that age group, to be honest. He didn't stop running, literally didn't stop running, and he did swimming and things like that as well. So he was definitely an athlete. And he literally loved playing in that position, and it was perfect for him. The amount of recovery runs, and I think when we were coaching the team together, you could have introduced the recovery runs to him, and it just worked really well. So that he played a lot of his game time in that in centre midfield, and getting around the pitch, and supporting the attackers, supporting the defenders, and you could just over the 2 years of playing seven-a-side, you could see how he grew just in confidence and technically playing,
Mark, then
that role.
Just more broadly, then, how much of picking the formation that you did choose with the 1-2-3-1 formation was driven by the players that you had, or was it right, that formation is going to be the best one, I think, so let's make the players fit that almost?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think to a certain extent, maybe it was coincidental, but that formation, and we tried a couple of different formations. That formation, I felt that it fitted the team. So we had a couple of players at the back. One of them was my son, who was technically good and got forward well, and there's another boy that played there as well. And we did rotate the positions, probably, to be fair, not as much as you do it under with the under eights. And if I had my way, if I'd go back and do it again, I would certainly rotate more than I did. But we definitely did rotate positions. I think that certainly the formation suited the players. As I said, that the boy that played centre midfield for us a lot of the game time, it fitted him very well. So it did work, and I would say that was a masterstroke, but I think it was more of a coincidence, to be honest.
Yeah, so that makes sense. Okay, go on.
The other thing to note is that obviously in terms of those three midfielders, you had two wide, two kind of left and right midfielders, and really, we had a couple of players that it really suited them, because either they would had the kind of engines to get up and down, and their kind of roles were supporting the attack and then helping out, supporting the defense as well. So it kind of, I think those roles suited them very well. And again, they had license. They had license to really support the players as much as possible. So they had really up to them as in terms of when they would support the play going forward, and we just encourage that as much as possible.
What, Mark, did other teams play against you? Was it similar formations or was it different?
We saw some. There was definitely we played teams with similar formations. There were a couple of teams that played almost like three at the back. We played some teams that played three at the back, which was a different way of playing. We had teams that played two up front, and actually that generally, when we played teams that played two attackers, that was we found that quite problematic because of the way that we played and how open we were, and letting our back players go forward. There was times where we were caught 2-on-1. Thankfully, our centre midfielder, who had a great engine, was able to get back and put in a great recovery run and support. But yeah, it was interesting. I to be honest, I never changed my formation depending on the opposition. Maybe because I didn't have that experience at the beginning, or maybe I just really, probably more so, I just wanted us to play to our strengths, and it didn't really bother me what formation the other team were playing. I just didn't really take it into account, to be honest. What would your thoughts be then? Would you change your formation at 7-a-side depending on the opposition, or would you just want to play to your strengths and structure that the players know?
It's a good question, because I was going to get to this towards the end of our conversation, but it's about really how important formations are anyway, you know. And I know we're doing a whole episode on formation, so it shouldn't be unimportant, but I guess it isn't, for me, it is important to have a formation and for the players to understand what their role is, but also it's important to understand how that changes during the game. So in theory, whatever formation you pick, you should be able to deal with the problems your opposition throw at you if you've got a good gameplay model. So if they were to have two up front and you're playing one at the back, well, how are we going to manage the situation? So maybe one of the centre midfield players are going to drop off a bit more in those situations, you know, at certain times, but when we haven't got the ball possibly, and then when we have, so it's about how you transition between possession, in possession, out of possession, and, you know, what half of the pitch you're in, things like that. So I guess it would, and also, I guess, how much you're dominating the other team when they're dominating you. So if you've got a team that's playing two up front and they're dominating you with those two up front, you're playing one at the back, then maybe you would have to change. Maybe you have to drop another player back in there to deal with that. But then I guess in those situations, it's a good conversation to have with the players where you say, okay, so, you know, we've just conceded 2 goals. It's the end of the first quarter. You know, what formation they got? They got this formation. What formation? What could we do then? And they'll probably say, well, how about, rather than playing a one, whatever we're doing, let's go 2 at the back to match them, at least player for player, and go from there. Okay. So, I'm not trying to undermine formations, because I think they're your starter for tonight. They're having the idea about where you're playing on the pitch, I think, especially for younger players, is important. But also having more than one role within that particular position is important, I believe, too, because you've got decisions to be made and you've got to look at the game. And then adapting to what the opposition challenge is or isn't, depending on, you know, individual players and that team, or just the quality of the whole team as a collective. It's coping with that, and that's all the wonderful decision making that goes on in the moment. That, you know, is the idea about this is why it's development football and not results football, because you want those challenges, and which is why it's 7-a-side, not 11-a-side, because you should see these things happening. So I guess I wouldn't change the formation necessarily, unless we had a chat about it and the players recognised that was the ideal or worth giving that as a potential solution to the problem they were facing, I guess.
But I think that's fair. Do you know what? The other thing, again, I think we putting things in perspective. This is under-9s football, right? The boys are 8 years old, or girls are 8 years old. What does it matter if you get caught 2-on-1 a few times? If you start with you keep your. Do you know? I know right, you're Mark, not playing to win. I know
point.
that.
No, but that's a good point. But I think that's a really good point you make there, because we didn't spell this out at the beginning, and we should do. If we're going to sit and chat about formations for a 7-a-side football with under-9s for half an hour, 40 minutes, then that could certainly send out the wrong message, couldn't it? But the point being here is, and you're right to mention this, Mark, the point being here isn't about trying to choose formations to win games, as in have a better scoreline than the opposition. The point here about choosing formations that are going to allow you to develop the players the best as possible, right? And I think it's important that we make that point, because this isn't about us trying to be the next Pep or Klopp or whoever else. This is about us saying, okay, what's going to best benefit the team, the players we've got development at 7-a-side.
100%.
So maybe we should set up the outset.
100%.
So that, for formations for development, not formations for results, because that's nonsense. Formations for development. So what's going to allow our players the best opportunity to develop themselves? So if our philosophy is about rotation, decision making, player centered, match day experience, then maybe one of the good things about the 1-2-3-1 formation, if you like, so the keeper, the 2 back players, 3 midfielders, and a front player, and the way I see it happening is we would be encouraging our goalkeeper to be almost become the back player. So what actually happens in possession is our keeper's our number one defender, if you like, our back player. Then our two defenders, if you like, that we had, you know, in the 1-2-3-1 formation, the two suddenly become almost like a left back and a right back, so slightly wider, almost like wing backs now a little bit, or maybe just maybe full backs. And then the centre mid moves up. Then it's like an attacking mid role, and then you've got the left mid and the right mid become almost wingers, and then the front players up there. So now you're controlling the game without a goalkeeper as such, because you know the formation's allowing the players to make those decisions. So a goalkeeper's very much involved in the game. We can play backwards to create space if we want to go forwards again by using that goalkeeper in that central position. And our left back and right back are quite wide now. But then when we lose the ball in dangerous positions, can our keeper drop back into a goal, you know, into goalkeeping position? Can our left back and right back drop in to close the space and narrow the danger area, if you like? Can the left wing and right wing drop back to maybe a left mid and a right mid position? Can the cam drop back to be more of a centre mid or DM? Can the front player help out a little bit by dropping back a little bit as well? So what we're getting the players to do here is think about doing more than one thing depending on what's going on in the game. Do you know what I mean? So therefore, the reason I quite like the formation is about what it provides opportunity wise for the players during the game experience, not necessarily just because I think it's going to be a better tactic to the opposition.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think again, if you put things in perspective along those lines, and this was always the way I used to think about it. Actually, does it matter if you draw 0-0 or win 1-0? And the reason you've done that is because you've been very structured in terms, right? You two are our back players. That's all you're doing in this game is our back players. And you take away those decision-making opportunities for when they should go forward and when they should do this, when they should do that. Or you get beat 7-5 or 7-4 or 6-4 or something like that because you've been a bit more open. Players have gone forward at times, maybe not the right times. Maybe sometimes it was the right time, and yet we got hit on the break. It just doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? I would rather get beat 7-4, 7-5. A, for the boys to go and score 5 goals. B, there's learnings within. We've conceded 6 or 7. Actually, what are the learnings from those ones we've conceded? It could be because they had 2 players playing up front and we didn't change our approach. Then fine. What could we do? What could we have done to help to remedy that? So I just think, for me, you're absolutely right in what you say in terms of formations. We don't pick formations to win games in 7-a-side. You can pick them to give them the most development opportunity to the players.
Yeah. Mark, then
now there may be coaches, Scott. I should say there may be coaches disagree. Other coaches probably do things differently for one reason or another. I don't know. Maybe there are benefits of playing a number of different formations. Maybe that you play 3 at the back one game, you play 2 at the back another game. Maybe you play 1 at the back and 1 in front in one game, and you can mix it up. Maybe there is a lot of learnings from doing that type of formation. Maybe that approach, you don't have the same form. You don't pick a formation for the opposition, but you're just going to change it up. Maybe every kind of 6 weeks you rotate the formation so it challenges the players. I'm not a big fan of that approach because I do think there needs to be a little bit of structure for players, but I'm sure there's a lot of coaches out there might adopt that kind of development approach as well.
Well, I guess what would be quite nice is the fact you played the format for 2 seasons. You could probably go with one formation to start with for at least maybe half of the first season or longer if you think it's appropriate to do so. So the players get a understanding for a 7-a-side formation. And then you use either the second half of that first season or certainly the second season to try a few different things out. A, just to let the players try different things, but also B, thinking about how you might then transition into the next format, which would be 9-a-side. So yeah, you haven't got to pick one formation and stick to it, have you? But again, as long as I guess the important thing is thinking about, okay, what's going to be the best for the players' development rather than, just to beat the next opponent. And the other thing, Mark, is, and even watching top flight football, you could have the same top 2 teams. So you could have Liverpool versus Man City play, well, in normal circumstances, this weekend, then again next weekend, then again the following weekend. And all 3 games can be completely different results, different domination, different things, because games are just different. They're like fingerprints. No two games are the same. And that's elite players playing,
Yeah.
at the pinnacle of football. So when you're talking about under nines playing 7-a-side, if we play the same opposition 10 times on the trot, we're going to get 10 different games, right? Because the boys are different. We're rotating. You may be resting players some week. They're doing the same thing potentially. Players have good days, bad days. The grass is different. Just there's so many variables in it that the opposition shouldn't actually like you shouldn't plan for the opposition necessarily, because who knows what you're going to get really. Even if you got thumped last time by them, you might not be the same players next time, or if you won handsomely last time, you might have a tougher game this time. So I think the question just comes back to actually what's the best thing I can do, or what's the best thing we can do as a collective to make sure the players get the most out of the learning opportunity, right?
Totally agree. It's a random game, right? And that's why we try to make our practices and training sessions random to kind of a development, but it's a very random game.
Yeah, and I guess letting the players be part of that decision-making process is not a bad thing either, right? If they can be involved in part of that, that's good too. That's part of the learning. It hasn't got to go down to the coach, has it? Mate, anything else you want to mention?
Totally.
Player roles?
I kind of covered player roles a little bit as I went through in terms of the different positions. The forward player was always an interesting one, actually, because I was always big when we were attacking. I was always big on when we attack, we want to stretch the pitch. And I always used to ask the players before the game every week when we're attacking, we want to stretch that pitch, make it big. And not just width-wise, but length-wise as well, because there's no offside at 7-a-side. So you can the attacker can really stretch the pitch to find space. And I think it's great learning opportunity for players in that age and in that format for them to kind of find space, because there's a lot of it on the pitch. So the forward position is always quite unique in terms of trying to keep them involved in the game, but also encouraging them to find space and then link up with the players, because it is a different role. All of a sudden, you're asking, compared to five-a-side, where actually you don't play a lot back to goal, but sometimes in 7-a-side you have a little bit more back to goal, because like certainly when maybe a left defender's got the ball, they might look for a pass down the line, and the forward would need to make themselves kind of available on the left hand side, and that's all new kind of stuff that you've got to kind of bring into the game. And now, not adult football, but there's kind of basic concepts that you want to kind of start introducing to encourage kind of combination play and things like that.
And that's the idea, right? Of moving,
is an interesting one. Yeah.
That's the idea, right? Moving from 5 to 7-a-side, because that's to bring in new things, right? And you can see the most players, by the time they play 2 years of 5-a-side, are ready for the next move up, aren't they? For those different challenges. So yeah, it makes sense. So Mark, I know you need to get away, so just nice and quickly, just if you don't mind, just I wonder what you found were the biggest differences between playing 5-a-side and 7-a-side, both for the players that you had, but also for you as the coach.
That's a good question, and I wish you'd asked me that before we started the podcast.
We can cut out the 3 minutes of silence while you think about it.
From a coach, they're gone already, mate. So I think even I think just standing on the touchline, and I think we've spoken about this before. You could have mentioned this before. I think all of a sudden the players are further away from you. And the parents are further away from you because the pitch is bigger. I think the pitch is kind of 50% bigger than 5-a-side. So actually if you want to kind of ask a question of a player, that's if you're on the left-hand touchline from a coaching standpoint, and the player's playing maybe right midfield, trying to get a question or a message to that person is a little bit more for a chat. It's a bit more challenging, especially then that you create this hold where they were previously if you're having a chat with them, and it takes them longer then to get back over to that position. But that's not a disaster. That's part of the development. But yeah, so from a coaching standpoint, all of a sudden you need to start thinking about how you communicate, and you find yourself probably moving up and down the touchline a little bit more than you did that you would do at 5-a-side. So I think there's a challenge there from a coaching standpoint, definitely. I just think the other thing is and the under 8s that you've got, some of the team play, some of the goals they've scored this year have been phenomenal, to be quite honest with you, and I'm sure you've been impressed with it. But I think that it becomes even more of a team kind of game at 7-a-side because the pitch is bigger. Not many players will be able to run from their own box to the other box and score a goal, or they might be able to do it once, but beyond doing it once, it becomes harder because it's a longer distance to run, and then there's also more players in the way. So it's also challenging the players to think about things and sharing the ball a bit more. And you, as I said earlier, you're creating these kind of concepts like combination play, and finding space. I think that those kind of concepts, some of your playing principles, I guess, really, I think come into play a little bit more at 7-a-side compared to 5-a-side.
Brilliant. Well, maybe what we'll do is, once we've actually got a chance to get into the season, we can chat about it more and see what's working, what's not working, and what we've learned maybe at a halfway point through the first season.
Definitely. I'll be on the touchline or in the centre circle reffing, so I will have plenty of opportunities to critique you and give you first-hand feedback.
Yeah, good man. I look forward to it. Good stuff. All right, Mark. Well, that was good. We spoke a bit about what we've been up to.
I think we covered the 7-a-side pretty well.
Yeah, and any questions out there anyone's got, or any tips or ideas for us around the 7-a-side format, what's worked for them and the reasons why, that would be great to know.
Yep.
And yeah, we'll try and get another episode out within the next week or so, Mark, if that's all right.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah,
all right.
Brilliant.
Well,
and then any feedback,
Scott?
I know you've any feedback or any it's at Soccer Coaching Cast.
Well
That's
done.
the Twitter handle.
Yeah.
I'll let you do the emails.
And yeah, so the website is the soccercoachingpodcast.com, and you can email us at info@thesoccercoachingpodcast.com. But we'll put the links on the show notes here, and whatever platform you're using to listen to the episode, just click on the show notes and we'll put the links in there as well. But I think Twitter's usually a good way of getting to us if you want to. But it'd be great to get your views on the episodes. Obviously the Ray Powell one was the last one we did, which was great. Ray, I'm getting through his book. I think you've got it as well now, Mark. The book's excellent. It really is good. Definitely worth a read, especially if you've got a bit of time at the moment to have a look at that. But yeah, any views, thoughts, ideas, anything you want to contribute, please let us know either through email or through Twitter.
Perfect.
Sound good? All right. Cheers, Mark. Stay safe, stay well, and speak soon. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.